Hi, I'm Wiley.
And I'm Maddie.
And it shouldn't happen again. Whoop, whoop. We need to figure out something to say after that.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. Yeah. Okay. It's my week today. We have limited time right now. So
30 minutes. Because we gotta eat.
Yeah, we're fiends.
Yeah,
so, I recorded this episode a while ago, but our good friend Xander,
lost it.
Yeah. Wait, no, we found it, but then the audio was bad, so we have to redo it because we are not posting bad audio anymore.
If episodes start going missing, you know why.
It's because they're bad, and we don't need that. Because, also, shout out to everybody who's gonna endorse us, right, guys?
Everyone, yep. Including Aiden.
Yes. Please, Aiden, endorse our podcast. Aiden's our sound guy today because Alyssa has to, go to class, do her schoolwork.
Loser.
Yeah.
Not us.
Just kidding. I love you, Alyssa. Okay, we're jumping into it. Okay, so my song for the week is Haunted from Speak Now, Taylor's version. If you don't listen to Taylor's version, you're freaking fake. But my case this week is Teresita Basa. So Teresita was she was just a cool girl. She was really nice. She lived a cool life, and was born on March 13th, 1929. She grew up in the Philippines where she was the only child, and she was really passionate about everything she did. She was well-rounded, and, since she was the only child, and her parents were wealthy, everything that she was passionate about, she was able to, use it, and was able to pursue all of her passions. So she really liked playing the piano and gardening. Those were her two main things. And so she loved music. Like when she wasn't playing the piano, she was sitting in front of her family's record player just listening to everything that they owned. But then in 1941, Dumaguete was invaded by the Japanese and was used as a critical strategy point. So her parents were like, well, should we leave? Because, it's World War II. And the government was like, no, guys, you need to stay. And her father was like, okay, guess I will. Because he was up in the government. So
he should endorse our podcast.
Please, he's dead.
Oh.
Anyway. Oh, well. We keep running into that issue, actually.
Yeah. Or the studio will be closed.
Yeah, trust. It's okay. So they had to stay. And this part of her life was very influential for her because she was kind of being forced to do things she didn't want to. She had been used to growing up learning English in the classroom, and then she then had to learn Japanese since the Japanese invaded, which that's not a drastic change, but just an example of how her life was changing around her and she couldn't help it. And this was her teenage years. Yeah. So it's imagine us having to do something totally different than what we do every day.
Imagine being oh, you can't go in there and record your podcast anymore. Instead, you have to do math worksheets.
Yeah, what do you mean? That would actually destroy me. Just kidding. But the island paradise that she had enjoyed as a child was gone. And then by 1947, the island had pretty much returned to normal. But also, she had a lot of trauma from all the violence that went on and all of the change. So she decided to move to Manila. And there she studied at St. Scholastica's College, where she became a very accomplished pianist. After her graduation from there, she moved to London and continued her studies at the Royal College of Music in London, England. And London was very, different from where she grew up. Because, she grew up on this, tropical, island life. And then London is,
ew, it's all rainy and gross all the time.
They all talk weird.
They all talk
and their teeth are messed up.
You can't stop.
I'm just kidding. Oh my gosh, you're right. I'm just kidding. People in London, I love you. You're beautiful and you talk perfectly fine and your teeth are gorgeous. I like how you drink tea and you have a queen. That'd be sick. I kind of want to be a queen.
They don't have a queen anymore. She died. Again, we ran into the issue again.
Well, if you're looking for candidates, we have two for you. Anyway, so yeah, if you're in Germany, we should start reaching out to international pop stars. Because we have listeners in Germany.
So true.
Yeah, it's fine. So, when she wasn't doing schoolwork, she was exploring London. And then 2 years at Royal College, she graduated with a certificate in pianoforte. And then she was like, okay, I should probably go home and say hi to my family. And then her friends were like, no, Teresita, please come on a backpacking trip of Europe with us. And she was like, okay. So she did that. Yeah. And then when she was in Paris, she met a Russian composer named Alexander Terepin, something like that. He took a liking to Teresita, but not like in a, OMG, you're so hot and I love you. It was more of a like a, oh my gosh, I'm going to mentor you and I love you kind of way. So he was very impressed by Teresita's dedication and skills in music. So him and his wife actually taught at a college in Chicago, and they were like, you know what, anytime you come to Chicago, hit us up. And she was like, okay. So she had that connection, which we'll come back to later. So in the summer of 1957, she was 28, and she flew from the Philippines to Honolulu. And then she traveled to Bloomington, Indiana. So she like went home, and then she
She went from Hawaii to Indiana?
Yeah, I don't know. It must have been a layover or something.
Like,
but
okay.
like, no, how are you going to go to the Philippines to Honolulu to Indiana?
Like,
That's bad.
that's so lame.
Yeah.
Like London, Paris, like
Bloomington, Indiana. Yeah. So, she enrolled in the foreign exchange visitor program at Indiana University, where she actually made a lot of friends. She was taking classes and had a handful of credits when she relocated to Washington, D.C. because girl was bored. So she was like just shy of her degree. So she took a job as a typist with a family friend. And this family friend, like her dad was in the government, remember? So she had like connections. So she like did everything. And she continued to study music at the Library of Congress. So while she was working and studying, she joined a diplomatic reception. And then there she met Edward O'Meara. So Edward was a lobbyist, and he took an immediate liking to her in like, oh my gosh, you're so hot kind of way. So it's like romantical, and like after they started meeting,
That
yes,
is a word.
yes, it is. Yeah, that's like us. I'm just kidding.
Yes, that is us.
Yes. So he took an immediate liking to her, and then they started dating, and they started spending a lot of time together. But just as their relationship began, and started to thrive, her visa was about to expire. So she was forced to go back to the Philippines, because she didn't have time to like renew it before she had to go back. So in 1965, she was 36 at this point. She returned back home to her parents. And Edward visited a lot because, you know, they're boothangs. Until during his final trip, his father discovered something so disturbing about him. And basically, he slept with prostitutes a lot. So
Okay.
Teresita was like, oh my gosh, no, what do you mean? Because, you know, her boyfriend's a-hole. So she was like, you know what? I don't need him. I'm going to continue my passion with music. So that's what she did. And she started teaching piano. But no matter how hard she tried, she was just not comfortable with being in the Philippines because, like, it was like the talk of the town. Mm-hmm. Like, OMG, her boyfriend cheated on her with prostitutes. And she had a lot of trauma from being there as well, like, since the war and everything. So her visa was then reapproved, and she was super excited. And on December 7th, 1971, 41-year-old Teresa returned to the United States. She had less than $400 in her bank account. So girl was kind of broke. She was able to find an apartment on the northwest side of Chicago, and then she completed her studies at Indiana University. So she also became a typist again, different place. So she, you know, life was going good for her. She was doing great. And then you realize, since Edward, she was super traumatized. She didn't trust anyone. She didn't want any new friends. She didn't want a boyfriend. She just was, like, to herself. So she kind of just, like, explored the city a lot, and was like, you know what? I really like Chicago. I want to make this my home. So that was all cute and everything. And she really liked music, of course. But she realized with the competition of the music industry and the schedule, and of how much money they don't make, she was like, I can't make a living out of this. So she enrolled as a student of respiratory therapy program at the Central YMCA College in 1972. So she said, music, that won't work. Let me be a respiratory specialist. Student of respiratory therapy program specialist.
That's a lot of words.
It is a lot of words.
Maybe like an acronym.
Yeah, like YMCA.
Yeah.
Youth Men's Christian Academy. Do you know what that means? you know that's what that means?
Really?
Yeah. I don't know why the Minions sing it. Like, why are the Minions sing Youth, Men's Christian Academy?
Well, because that's not how the song goes. But
yeah. Fun
I love
fact.
how you did the dance, too.
Yeah. They can see me. They know. See that camera that's always turned around.
Yeah, I bet Aiden turns it around.
Probably. Or Adam. Aiden and Adam
Who
together.
is Adam?
Anyway, so in the spring, she graduated from that program and she got a job at Edgewater Hospital in Chicago. And then off of her new salary, because she was making big bucks as a hot woman in respiratory therapy programs, she bought a new apartment. And in 1974, she moved in. And she moved into Pine Grove Apartments, and they're across from Lincoln Park. So she had all this money. She had a new place. And so she was like, I need a new piano. I need to treat myself. So she bought a little keyboard and put it in her apartment. And she started opening up to new friends at this point because the thought of Edward had become a little more distant. So she became very close with Ruth Loeb, and they were like best friends, right? Besties for the resties.
BFFs.
Yes. And she ended up even like getting really close with some other coworkers, and they formed a band with her cousins, and they were called the Mahogany 5+1, which is like really cute because it was like 5 Filipino people and then 1 white person. It's like Mahogany 5+1. The drummer was a white person. So she was finally like, okay, everything's coming together. This is going great, but she also like was still a little heartbroken because her boyfriend was a fake. But yeah, so she did not want to date anybody, which like go her for not wanting to. Like, I don't blame her. And in 1975, she was like, she had a former pen pal named Robert, and he was like, don't worry, girl, I'm coming to Chicago. I'm gonna take you to dinner. And she was like, okay. So when Rob went to pick her up, he opened the door, and there were 2 of her like coworkers standing behind her, and they were like, we take care of her. Like, thanks, coworkers. That's so real. Like, that's so nice.
I love that she had bodyguards.
Yeah, I do too. Teresita never like let people take anything away from her. Like, although she did fear love, she was still like, you know what, YOLO, and I admire that, you know. So in around like 1975, she began spending time with her new friend Alan Showery. So Alan worked at the hospital, and they like rode the same bus sometimes because their houses or their apartments were like close together and they were on the same route. So on February 1st, 1977, Teresita was preparing to leave the hospital when her friend Alan wanted to come like ride the bus with her. So like I said, they did this often, and on the ride home, Teresita had mentioned to Alan that her TV was really messed up, and he was like, don't worry, girl, I'll fix it. And so, you know, then they were just chit-chatting it, and she was like, oh my gosh, we have a show tomorrow, but our drummer may be like quitting after. And Alan was like, well, if you need a new drummer, like, I'm totally down for it. Yeah. So Teresita was like, well, why don't you come to our show? And he was like, that'd be sick, but I don't have enough money to get my own ticket. So she was like, don't worry about it, I'll set one aside for you, because she was just a really nice person. So that was that. They got off at their stops and went back to their apartments. Okay. So once she had settled in that night, she called her friend and coworker and bandmate, Dr. Jonabella. So around 7 is when they just like began chatting, and they only talked for like 10 minutes. So Teresita mentioned that Alan like could be taking over the drummer position, and was like, yeah, I think I like have a fill like if the one white drummer decided to quit. So after 10 minutes of talking, Teresita was like, hold on, someone's knocking at my door, and hung up. So she told Dr. Jonabella on the phone that she was expecting company who might come to the concert tomorrow. At about 7:30, Teresita got another call from Ruth Loeb. They talked for like 20 minutes, and she told Ruth that she had a guy visiting her. Yeah. Yeah. The cast, Maddie has heard this many times before.
Yeah.
So, like, on the phone, Ruth was able to hear that there was a male visitor, and, like, could hear him talking in the background, but she never said anybody's name. And nobody, like, she wasn't like, oh my gosh, hey, so-and-so, or so-and-so's here. She, like, she didn't say anything. So that was the last time anybody had ever heard from Teresita again.
Oh, no.
Yeah, we're at row. So a little after 8:30, Catherine and Mario Nazi were cleaning up their dinner on the 15th floor of Teresita's apartment. So they had just settled in, and then Mario smelled burning. So he opened the door, and the hallway was just filled with smoke. Like awful. So he ran through the hallway, knocking on everybody's doors, being like, fire, there's a fire. And by this point, Chicago firefighters had made their way to the apartment complex because the fire alarms went off, obviously. So Mario and Catherine were going down, getting everybody. First of all, they went in the elevator, which is not what you should do in a fire, but unrelated. So they stop, and Mario stops at the 7th floor to go get the janitor to tell him, but like firefighters were already like there.
Yeah.
So the 7th floor is where Teresita's apartment was. So Chicago firefighters entered their way, and they opened like the door to Teresita's apartment, and they knew immediately that the fire was coming from inside of there.
Ew.
Yeah. So they searched the apartment, and they figured out that it was coming from the middle of her bedroom floor, which is retro. So they ended up putting the fire out, but it was a huge fire. And once it was clear, investigators started investigating. I just said a lot. Please ignore. So when they had started investigating, they noticed like someone has burned this mattress. That's weird. So there was like the mattress on the floor on a pile of clothes. So
hold on. So if they set it on fire, then how is it still there? Because when like it burned and turned to ash, because it's in.
But like it didn't burn that fast, I don't think.
But like.
Oh wait, no, hold on. Pause. I know what you mean. So they put it on a pile of clothes, and it set the clothes on fire.
Okay, then why are the clothes not turned to ash?
I don't know. It must not have been on fire for that long. I don't know. I don't know the specs.
Like, I'm just like thinking about
but
it.
But it doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
No, something would be gone.
Yeah. I don't know what exactly.
This is a lot of clothes.
Yeah. I don't know.
What were the clothes made out of? What was the exact
I need to know. So
test this out.
We haven't even gotten to the good part yet. Hold on.
Oh, I already know the good part.
That's true. That's true. So there was a pile of clothes with a mattress, and then on top of that mattress was Teresita's body, who was nude and had a butcher knife in her chest. Set on fire, might I add.
This is our school podcast.
Yep. It's fine. Nobody from here listens to it anyway. So they were like, oh my gosh, the apartment was ransacked. And like the fire had damaged Teresita's body. And it was burned on like most of her sides. However, it really hadn't made bad damage to her face, arms, and legs. So the fire hadn't made its way through all the clothes. That's just what what I said, or what I wrote on my notes. So they were able to identify who the victim was by like personal papers and pictures around the house. So they were like, this kind of looks like a robbery. And the living room was also in like kind of a ransacked state. And while they were investigating around it, they saw a note, like a Post-it note on the counter with the words, "Give ticket to AS," which is, we know, Alan Showery, because he wanted to go to the concert. So the officers went door to door interviewing everybody, and they found out that Teresita was a really private person. Like, she was nice, but she just kept to herself. So the janitor recalled Teresita arguing with someone in the lobby a few weeks earlier. And there were multiple accounts of Teresita, like, just being attacked. And the building owner was like, oh, yeah, one time we had to change all the locks because someone broke into her apartment. What? Like, the completely unrelated issues, but initially detectives thought that it was a rape, arson, murder, robbery. So
that's a lot of words.
Yes, it is. So in the kitchen there was a cutting board with lettuce and half of a tomato, and it was missing the knife. Or bacon. Some people also say bacon was missing.
So with the Ollier, where he wanted there to be bacon, he's like,
yeah.
And you're like, you know what was missing? And I said, the half of the tomato, and he goes, bacon.
The knife was missing. That is the point of that.
Yeah.
So all of her friends confirmed that she didn't have a boyfriend, but she had been, like, kind of dating someone, but not, like, really dating. Like, they had just gone on a couple dates. So on the morning of February 22nd, the autopsy began. And basically, beneath the skin of her neck, which was charred, there was bruising. She also had a fractured larynx, so this was a sign that she was choked. And they determined that the cause of death was a stab wound to the heart and strangulation. The autopsy showed that she was not sexually assaulted, so that was weird to detectives. And, you know, for months, detectives poured over Teresita's life, interviewing pretty much everybody, but all of the leads fell through. Until we meet 39-year-old employee at Edgewater Hospital named Remy Chua. So Remy Chua also worked at Edgewater Hospital, but was in a completely different, like, what's the word? Department. So they really didn't know each other, Remy and Teresita. They met once at orientation. And so Remy's husband, said in one interview that overnight Remy had just come preoccupied with Teresita's murder case and life. So she just, like, was constantly asking things about her, trying to learn more about the case. It was just being really weird because they didn't know each other. And then on one day in July, Remy was sitting alone in the break room, and her coworkers would see her jump up and run out of the room. Like, something had frightened her significantly. So they're like, what's going on? So they walked in there and nothing was in there. Like, she just had run. So later that night when Remy went home, she told her husband, she was like, I was sitting there and I closed my eyes for a second and I opened them and Teresita was standing right there.
Oh no.
Yeah. Not saying anything, just literally standing there watching over her. And so she was freaked out. She wasn't blinking or anything either, like, just literally standing there. And Teresita's dead. So she's like, what the heck? So she would, like, randomly also tell people facts about Teresita's life. Like, and it was just becoming really weird. So her coworkers were like, what the heck? Because she was, like, she looked like she was trying to act like Teresita as well. And all of the coworkers that were friends with Teresita were like, why are you mocking our friend? So they actually went to the supervisor and were like, they're mocking my dead friend. Like, something needs to be happening. So,
this sounds like a disorder.
Yeah. So it was weird. And, like, the issue was taken to the supervisor. And when the supervisor went and talked to Chua, she was like, I didn't do any of this. Like, I'm not trying to do anything. And he was like, well, you are. And then she ended up being let go for disorderly conduct at work. So,
yeah, that checks out.
Yeah. So, she was no longer working there. She got fired. So that evening when she went home, her and her husband were relaxing in their living room because, you know, she had just been let go. It was been a rough day, so they were just sitting watching TV when Remy drifted to sleep. So, abruptly, out of nowhere, she stood up without saying anything and then just went to the bedroom. And when she didn't come back for a while, her husband went to check on her, and she was just laying on the bed with her eyes wide open. And she kept saying, in a Filipino language, which they were Filipino as well, like Teresita. She kept saying, Mama, Mama, are you there? Which is weird. And her husband, Remy's husband, Jose, was really confused. Like, what the freak is going on, bro?
What the freak?
And the voice coming from Remy's mouth was not her voice. So Remy was on the bed, eyes fixed to the ceiling, and just said, I am Teresita Basa. Which, again, she's dead. So he's like, what the freak? So she kept rambling on in this language about herself, Teresita. She looked at him. This is Remy looking at her husband saying, Dr. Chua, I need your help. She said, "Stop the person who killed me." So he started walking towards the bathroom because he's like, "What is wrong with my wife?" Like, so he's trying to get like a wet
I'm
washcloth.
done. I'm leaving.
He's trying to get a wet washcloth. He's coming back to worry. And she said, she lifted her arm and pointed to the door and said, "Call the police. Please, doctor. Call them and tell them who killed me. I cannot rest until they do." So that's like, what the heck? And then suddenly, Remy came to and was really confused. She's like, "Why am I in the bed? Like, I didn't come in here." So her husband's like, "Oh, girl," and explained to her what happened. And they were like, "Okay, that's really bizarre." So the next day, Jose is her husband, went to like drive to work to get Remy her things because she had just been fired, and came back while Remy was on the phone with her friend. And while she was on the phone, she abruptly handed the phone to her husband and said, "Teresita wants to come out." So she again walked into the bedroom and laid on the bed and then said, "I am Teresita Basa," which is interesting because where was she found? Laying on the bed with a knife in her chest. So, that's freaky. So she said, this time she stated to Dr. Chua, "The man who murdered me was named Alan Showery. He came in to fix my TV." And then she went on to tell Jose an entire list of things that were stolen from her apartment. Because it looked like nothing had really been stolen. It was just ransacked and they didn't know what had been stolen. So she was like, "You need to go, like, you need to help me." And so Jose ended up calling the police and they were like, "This sounds crazy." And long story short, they ended up being like, "Okay, we can give this a try." So when they went to go search Alan's home, they found everything that was that Remy had told Dr. Chua that was missing. So they found everything except for one thing, and it was Teresita's mother's ring. And they found that on Alan's fiance's finger. What? So they were like,
for this part, I wouldn't believe it. I would think this girl has like some kind of disorder or something where she's like insane.
She thinks she's crazy. Because I didn't believe it at first, but then I'm like thinking about it, like, how did she know what she stole?
She was an accomplice.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know. But basically, so he went to trial and he ended up getting out after 4 years in prison. I'm not sure the specs on that, but he did not.
Specs.
Yeah, he did not stay in prison for very long. So yeah, that's a very interesting case. I know I went quick, but we're on a time crunch right now. But
yeah, because I had to eat.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it. It's very like paranormal. Like I don't believe in ghosts, but like I believe in this ghost.
Sucks.
Oh well, I mean, I guess I believe in
nope.
Ghosts a little bit. Here first,
but she said nope.
Oh well, but yeah. So that's all for today. Sorry, this episode was kind of short. There's a better one, but it got lost. So
yeah, with Carter Ollier in it,
he wants to snap. It's CEO 3036.
Oh, I wasn't even gonna say. I was gonna be like, but now you don't get to know.
Oh well, now you don't get to know.
Now
now you know. Okay. Well, that's all for today. I'm Wiley.
I'm Maddie.
And it shouldn't happen again.